Good afternoon, everyone. I, Sadra Shana, the Assistant Professor, Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, Integral University, Lucknow, would like to welcome you all in this session of our value-added course entitled Ancient History from the Purview of Civil Services Examination. I hope you all are taking advantage of this course. Topic for today's lecture is Gupta Age. Tomorrow we talk about uh, Golden Age of Gupta Empire. Aryabhata's is a work on astronomy and deals only incidentally with problems of mathematics along with rules of involution and evolution. It deals with the arithmetical progression of numbers and their squares and cubes. In the field of geometry, Aryabhatta described the various properties of a circle and gives a very accurate value for pi, correct to 4 decimal places at 3.1.416. Aryabhatta is regarded as the father of algebra. His work solves a number of complex simultaneous equations. The use of the sine function in solving problems in astronomy indicates the development of trigonometry. The Aryabhatiya gives tables for the trigonometric ratio sign called J in Sanskrit for angles from 0 to 19 degrees at intervals of 3 and 3 and 4 degrees. The same sign tables are also found in the Surya Siddhant. Aryabhatta also preferred the method of solving in integers certain types of interminate equations. Later mathematicians such as Brahmagupta and Bhaskar II also made contribution in this sphere. Unlike Greek writers on geometry, ancient Indian mathematicians did not give proofs or demonstration. Reference may be made here to some of the developments in later centuries as well. In the 7th century, Indian mathematics came to be divided into two main areas: arithmetic with mensuration and algebra. Bhaskar first, early 7th century, wrote a commentary on the Aryabhatiya, where he gave an interesting geometrical treatment for algebraic formula. Brahmagupta, 7th century, made important contribution to geometry. He was the first mathematician to discuss the method of obtaining a cyclic quadrilateral having rational sides and to give the area of cyclic quadrilateral. He also put forward theories on the circumdiameter of a triangle and for finding the diagonals of a cyclic quadrilateral in terms of its sides. Mahavir in 9th century was a famous mathematician of Karnataka who lived in the court of the Rajput king Amogvar's Niruptung of Manikhet. He wrote a book called Ganit Sat Sangrah, which deals with various mathematical problems. He also gave formula for the area and circumference of an eclipse. The formula he gave for the area and ellipse was incorrect, but the one for the circumference was correct. Bhaskar II in 12th century, author of the Leelavati, was another important mathematician whose writing contains some important ideas of calculus. Medical knowledge of Gupta Empire. Although there may have been several different systems of medicine in ancient India, the text and tradition of only one of these, Ayurveda, literally knowledge for longevity, have come down to us. The Charak and Susrut Samhitas are its earliest surviving texts. There is little evidence to substantiate the claim made by the Ayurvedic tradition that its roots lie in the Veda. Although Vedic texts uh, do contain ideas related to healing and medicine. These do not match those of Ayurveda. Neither is there any indication that Ayurveda owed anything to Greek medicine. Not a single Greek loan word can be identified in its terminology. Devi Prasad Chattopadhyay, argues that the medical literature represents part of a secular, non religious empirical tradition that at some point of time come to Brahmanize. On the other hand, Kenneth holds that the roots of Ayurveda lie in the mule of the Buddhist monasteries of early historical India, and the medical knowledge and the practice of monks gradually spread beyond the confines to the monasteries. It is interesting to note the interweaving of philosophical ideas, for instance, those of Sankhya, Yoga, and Vaisheshik, in the medical text. The Charak Samhita contains several chronological layers. The origins of the work may go back to 3rd or 2nd century BCE. The Boer manuscript contains passage very similar to those in the Charak Samhita and indicates that Charak was considered a medical authority by the early 5th century CE. The name Charas Charak occurs in colophons at the end of each chapter of the book. The main body of the text presents itself as containing knowledge received by Agnivesh from his teacher, a sage named Athray. It seems that the medical system described in the work was known as the system of Agnivesh, and the Charak simply edited Agnivesh text. In the 4th or 5th century CE, the text seems to have been edited again by the person named Drihatbala. The Charak Samhita is divided into 120 chapters arranged in 8 sections. The Sutra section deals with pharmacology, food, certain disease and their treatment, doctors and quacks, and various philosophical issues. The second, uh, which called Nidan section, deals with the cause of 8 important disease. The third, Viman, deals with issues such as taste, nutrition, pathology, and medical studies. The fourth, Sharir, deals with anatomy, embryology, and philosophy. Then there are sections dealing with diagnosis and prognosis. Indriya therapy, chikitsa, pharmacy, and a further discussion of a therapy in general, Siddhi. The Susrut Samhita too has several chronological layers. The original text, which deals basically with surgery, may have been composed in the late centuries BC, but it was edited over several centuries till about the 5th century CE. Commentaries on the work mention the name of an editor named Nagarjun. The text, as it has come down to us, consists of 6 sections. The first section deals with issues such as the origin and part of medicine, a doctor's training, therapeutic substance, food, surgery, the treatment of wounds, and the extraction of splinters. The second, or Nidan, deals with symptoms of disease, their pathology, prognosis, and surgery. The third Sarya deals with embryology, anatomy, and philosophy. Chikitsa deals with therapy, Kalp with poisons. The Uttar section deals with eye, teeth, children's care, and disease attributed to demons, etc. The concept of dosh, humors, dhatu, body tissues, and mal waste products are central to Ayurveda. Three semi-liquid substances or doshas, vat, Pitta and Kapha are supposed to circulate in the body. The Vata is supposed to be localized mostly in the large intestine, the Pitta in the navel, and the Kapha in the chest. The three doshas interact with the 7 basic elements of the body, child, the pulp to which food is reduced in the stomach, blood, flesh, fat, bone marrow, and semen with the waste products produced by the body. Body fluids are visualized as carried around the body through innumerable ducts, pipes, and tubes. Sushruta used interesting smiles to explain the function of network of ducts. He described it as similar to veins on a leaf, providing nutrition to all parts of the body through their construction and dilation. Just a garden or field is irrigated by water carrying canals, digestion, is seen as the central processes of bodily function. Diseases are believed to be caused either by an inordinate buildup of one of the doshas in its location or by its movement into another area of the body. They are divided into those that can be cured, those can only be elevated, and those for which there is no cure. They are linked to other factors, including lapses of judgment, the suppression of natural urge, karma, and the influence of demons. The discussion of epidemics mention their connection with bad water, rats, and mosquitoes. Methods of medical diagnosis include direct perception and interference. Sushrut state that touching, looking, and questioning are the three methods that a doctor should use while examining a patient, but adds that he should use all of his five senses. Ayurveda prescribes various kinds of therapies, including dietary regulation, massage, enemas, ointments, bloodletting, and surgery. It emphasizes moderation, including in eating, exercise, and medication. The Sushrut Samhita describes surgery as the most useful branch of medical knowledge and gives information on surgical techniques and practice in ancient India. The author discusses the training of a surgeon and gives a detailed description of his tools. There are description on surgical procedures such as the dislodging of the eye lens for the removal of cataract, cutting for a stone in the bladder, removing splinters and arrows, and stuttering. The text also refers briefly to plastic surgery, a flap from the skin being grafted to repair a several nose and the repair of torn earlobes. It also discusses how uh, corpses can be used to study human anatomy. Other important ancient Ayurvedic texts include Vagbhat, Grihad, Heart of Medicine, a comprehensive and systematic presentation of Ayurvedic medical knowledge, which may be to circa 600 C. Another important work called the Ashtang Sangram, Tome on Medicine, is ascribed to the same author. Other ancient Ayurvedic treatises include Kashyapa's Compendium, which deals mainly with the disease of women and children. It may belong to the 7th century, although some parts may be based on older material. The 14th century Sarangdhar Samhita offers a belief but succinct account of Ayurveda. Its recipes are still used by the Ayurvedic pharmaceutical industry. The ideas of Ayurveda had an impact outside the subcontinent as well. The major texts became accessible to other regions and cultures via translation into languages such as Arabic, Persian, Tibetan, and there is evidence that Ayurvedic ideas influenced botanical science in Europe as well. Ayurveda is an ancient system of Indian medicine which has continued into our own times as one of several traditional alternatives to the allopathic tradition of modern medicine. Mention may also be made of developments in veterinary science. The Hast Ayurveda of Palkap is a work consisting of 160 chapters. It deals with the diagnosis and treatment of the major disease of elephants through medication and surgery. In conclusion, we can say that interpretation of the period Gupta Empire have swung from the extreme of a golden age marked by brilliance in all spheres to a feudal age marked by political fragmentation and economic decline. Neither of these extreme views are convincing. While the Gupta Empire were by no means homogeneous, highly centralized policies, inscriptions, do reveal fairly complex administrative and revenue structure. Land grant description reflect change in agrarian relations, which intensified in the early medieval period. There is insufficient evidence to argue for a marked decline in urban centers, crops, or trade. The development of complex religious pantheons had a further institutionalization of religious establishments was reflected in sculpture and architecture. The cultural production of these centuries, especially in the spheres of Sanskrit literature and stone sculpture, reveals exceptionally fine aesthetic qualities and must have been based on the patronage of urban elites. The significant advances in the science of astronomy, mathematics, and medicine were carried forward in the early medieval period. Now we can topic the causes of the downfall of the Gupta Empire. For nearly 250 years, the Gupta Empire provided political unity, good administration, and economic and cultural progress to North India. The period, therefore, has been rightly regarded as the most glorious epoch in Indian history. But then it disappeared from the scene. The difficulties of the empire began during the later period of the reign of Kumar Gupta first. Skand Gupta faces them successfully but could not finish them. The difficulties were converted into weaknesses after him. When his weak successor failed to rise to the o- occasion, this led to the disruption and finally to the extinction of the empire. The Gupta Empire also made the fate of the Maurya Empire, and the causes to more or less were similar. Uh, Iskandar successfully checked the invasion of the Hunas. As a crown prince and as an emperor, he inflicted a crushing defeat on them. He also succeeded in eliminating completely the threat posed by Pushyamitras to the empire from the south. Yet those campaigns heavily taxed the financial and military resources of the empire. Therefore, he was forced to lower the quality of his gold coins. It meant that the empire was under financial strain. However, Askan Gupta was successful, but after him, the Gupta rulers proved incompetent. Their incapacity increased the number of internal and external enemies. The provincial governors began to assert independence right from the reign of Purugupta. Emperor Buddhagupta was hardly able to maintain a show of suzerainty over his governors. After him, even the nominal suzerainty was thrown off by the governors and they became independent rulers. The same way, the later Gupta rulers failed to face their external enemies like the Vakatakas and the Hunas. Thus, the incompetence of the Gupta rulers after Iskandar was one of the primary causes of the downfall of the empire. In the absence of competent rulers, no empire could be preserved in those times. The Gupta also lost their empire primarily because of their own incompetence. Then the another factor which brought ruin to the Gupta rulers was their own internal dissension. After Kumar Gupta, the succession to the throne was always disputed. Probably even Iskan Gupta had to fight against Purugupta to get the throne, and after the death of Purugupta, his rival princes of the family of Iskan Gupta and Purugupta fought against themselves, and the empire was divided. Probably for a few years, Narsim Gupta ruled in Magad, while at the same time Vanugupta ruled over the eastern part of the empire, and Bhanugupta ruled in the west. Buddhagupta, who ascended the throne in 477 AD was not the ruler of consolidated empire, but rather the head of a federal state. After him, even that semblance of unity was overthrown, and different Gupta princes or rulers took opposite side in the struggle and political convulsions of their period. These certainly helped in bringing about the downfall of the empire. Put together the incompetence of the later Gupta rulers and their internal conflicts weakened the central authority with encouraged both external and internal enemies of the empire to take an advantage of it. While he Vakatak rulers and the Hunas uh, endangered the imperial territories from outside, the provincial governors broke up the unity of the empire from within by asserting their independence. The success of Yasodharman in Malwa encouraged others. The Matrakas assumed independence at Vallabhi. The Maukris created an independent kingdom in the upper Ganges valley, and the Gandhas wrested Bengal from the Guptas. The weak Gupta rulers failed to check the disintegration of the empire. The Vakatakas had created a powerful kingdom in southwest Samudgupta had not harmed them, while Chandragupta II had entered into a matrimonial alliance with them by marrying his daughter Prabhavati to the then Vakataka ruler Rudrasen II. But when the Gupta Empire weakened, the Vakataka rulers tried to take advantage of it. Naren Sen attacked the territories of the empire in Malwa, Kosala, and Mekhla during the period of Buddhagupta, which weakened the authority of the Guptas in Madhya Pradesh and Bundelkhand. Afterwards, the Vakataka ruler Harisen also attacked the boundaries of the empire. These attacks of the Vakataka rulers were primarily responsible for weakening the authority of the Guptas in Malwa, Gujarat, and Bundelkhand, and encouraging their governors to assert their independence. A few scholars have expressed the view that the invasion of the Hunas were primarily responsible for the downfall of the Gupta Empire, but it is not generally accepted. The view expressed by Dr. R.C. Majumdar is more tenable how generally accepted and now generally accepted. He said that the invasion of the Hunas were not primarily but only partially responsible for the downfall of the empire. The Hunas were defeated so severely by Iskand Gupta that they did not dare to invade the empire for about the next 50 years, and when then started their attacks again, the empire had already become weak because of its internal dissension. Of course, the Huna king Torman and Mihirkul succeeded in penetrating deep into the Indian territories as far as the borders of Magad. But then at that time, uh, they were not fighting against the lively and mighty Gupta Empire, but against its ghost. The mighty Gupta Empire was already dead. At that time, it existed only in name. The Hunas did not contribute in any way to uh, its death. In fact, uh, they came when only the last ceremonies were due. Even then, the Hunas were not very much successful in India because they too had lost their wave strength by that time. The kingdom of Turman did not cross the river Indus, and Mihirkul was defeated twice here. Once by Narsim Gupta II and once by Yasodharman of Mandsaur, Malwa. Thus, the Hunas neither directly contributed to the downfall of the Gupta Empire, but nor were defeated by Askand Gupta. However, it is accepted that their attacks no doubt put a heavy pressure on the financial and military resources of the empire and therefore were partially responsible for its downfall. The Dr. S.C. Rai Chaudhary puts forward a different reason for the downfall of the empire. He says that the later Gupta rulers were influenced by Buddhism and its principle of non-violence. This brought about a negative influence on their military strength, and that also contributed partially to their downfall. Narsim II was inclined towards Buddhism, and it's stated that he once captured Mihir Kul but left him free on the advice of his Buddhist mother. Such acts cannot be justified in matters concerning state politics, and none would deny that the attitude of non-violence or passivity is harmful to the military strength of a state and thus creates danger to its existence. The later Gupta rulers definitely failed to maintain their military strength and thereby to pursue a forceful policy against their external enemies and internal dissenters, which certainly resulted in the downfall of the empire. After Buddha Gupta, there existed virtually no Gupta empire as such. Narsingh Gupta was simply the ruler of Magad. The rest of empire was lost by them. Afterwards, Magad was also occupied by Maukhari ruler Ishan Varman near about 544 AD. Though it is believed that the Gupta rule existed in North Bengal up to 550 AD or so and in Kalinga till 1569 AD. 569 AD. Thus ended the mighty Gupta Empire. Uh, the internal weakness, the empire was primarily responsible for its downfall, though of course external attacks also contributed to it. Dr. R.C. Majumdar rightly concludes, indeed, from various points of the view, the end of the Gupta empires offer a striking analogy to that of the Mughal Empire. The decline and downfall of both was brought about mainly by internal dissension in the royal family and the rebellion of feudal chiefs and provincial states through foreign invasion was an important contributory factor. This is the period decline, and now we come to the topic on Vardhan dynasty, mainly Harshvardhan, uh, economic, social, and cultural view. After the downfall of Gupta Empire in North India, the most prominent and strong dynasty was Pushyabhuti dynasty. In history, this dynasty is known as Vardhana dynasty. The decline of the Gupta Empire was followed by a period of political disorder and disunity in North India. The subsequent period is generally referred to as early medieval period. It saw the emergence of numerous ruling dynasties in different parts of the country. The most important ruling family that rose to prominence soon after the Guptas was that of Putsibhutis of Thaneswar. Harshvardhana's accession to the throne in 606 CE held in age in the history of ancient India. His reign witnessed the last attempt to realize political unification of North India by a Hindu king. The main source of information for the career and achievements of Harshvardhana were Bana's Harsharit, the dramas written by Harsha, namely Ratnavali, Naganand, and Priyadarshika, Siyuki, the account of the Chinese pilgrim, Huan song, Madhuban, and Bansakhera, copper plate inscription of Harsha, a whole inscription of Pulkesin II, and coins of Harsha. They form the primary source of information to know about Harsha. Source about the Vardhan dynasty. We know about the Vardhana dynasty from the historic literature, writing of foreign travelers, and archaeological sources. In historic literature, Harsharit was composed by Ban Bhatt. He was the Asthan Kavi, poet of Harsha's court. This literature is the most important source of information of Vardhana dynasty. The Harsharit was the first composition of Ban Bhatt and is considered to be the beginning of historical poetic works in Sanskrit language. Harsharit has 8 chapters or sections, which were called as Uchvasas. In first 3 sections, Ban Bhatt has written autobiography, which does not hold any importance in history. In second Uchvasas, in this Ban Bhatt has given detailed information about the ancestry and early life of King Harsha, mainly about Katikat village which was associated with Vatsan Gotra and Bhrigvanshi Brahmin. It also talk about the first meeting of Ban Bhatt with King Harshvardhana in Matre, which was Skandwar military camp located on the bank of river Achiravati. In third Uchvasas, it describes about the Shrikhand Janpad and Thaneswar. It also tells about the relationship re- relationship of Harshvardhana with Pushyabhuti and Shaiv Sannyasi Vairvacharya. Bhairvacharya. In fourth Uchvas, it has detailed information related to Prabhakar Vardhan. In fifth Uchvasas, means chapters, it has information related to the discussion by the destruction by the Hunas. It also tells about demise of Prabhakar Vardhan. In six Uchvasas, it explains about the discomposed state of King Rajavardhan, who later became ascetic sannyasi. Seventh Uchvasas, it has the information about the military conquest of Harshvardhana, as it also tells about the friendship proposal sent by the king of Kamrup, Bhaskar Varman, through his ambassador Hen Song to King Harshvardhan. And in 8 Uchvasas, it gives detail about discovery and acceptance of Rajyashri. Kadambari is also composed by Ban Bhatt. It is considered as one of the greatest novel in Sanskrit. A study of this novel gives a very elaborate information about the social and religious condition prevailing during Harsha's reign. In Arya Manjusri Moolkalp, uh, Arya Manjusri Moolkalp, it is a very famous Buddhist text. It was for the first time published in 1925 by Ganpat Shastri. It has 1000 slokas as well as very detailed information of Indian history between 7th century to 8th century. The text uses the letter Ha to relate to King Harshvardhana. Composition of Harsha. First is Naganand, second Ratnauli, and third is Priyadarshika. Even these are the priceless contribution of Sanskrit text by Harshvardhan. Uh, Next, we can talk about Huyen Song. The famous Chinese traveler Huyen Song came to India during Harsa's rule and stayed here for 16 years. His travelogue is popular as "See Ki." In biography of Huyen Sang, it was composed by friend of Huyen Sang, Healy. The text give relevant information of King Harshvardhana rule. Now we talk about It Singh, another Chinese traveler who visited India during Harshvardhana rule. It was It Singh. He too gave detailed information about King Harsha. The English translation of his writing is famous as a record of Buddhist religion. Uh, Hence, all the information of Harshvardhana's ruler has been generated from historic literature, archaeological sources, and writing of foreign travelers. Now we talk about archaeological sources. Uh, Bans Khera inscription. Inscription Bans Khera is situated in Shahjahanpur district of Uttar Pradesh. An inscription dated 22 Harsa Samvat AD 628 was found in 1894. This inscription gives a lot of information regarding Harsha. The inscription says that Harsha had granted Market Sagar village to Brahmins Bal Chand and Bhatt Swami. This also speaks of the victory of Rajvardhan over Malwa king Devgupta and the murder of Devgupta by the king of God named Shashank. Now we talk about Madhuban inscription. Madhuban is situated in Ghosi Tehsil of Azamgarh district in Uttar Pradesh. Harsha Samvat 631 AD has been found there. It mentioned about the grant of Somkund village by Harsha to Shravani Gotri Bhatt Vat Swami and Vishnu Ridh Gotri Bhatt Shivdev Swami. A whole inscription. The inscription of Chalukya king Pulkesin II is dated AD 633 to 634. The inscription deals with the battle between Harshvardhan and Pulkesin II. The inscription was written by Ravi Kirti, the court poet of Pulkesin. In Nosari inscription, it is the work of Vallabhi ruler Jayabhat III, which tells about the victory of Harsha over Vallabhi ruler Dhruv Bhatta. Harsha is referred as God, Parmeshwar in the inscription. Seals. Two seals of Harsha have been found in Nalanda and Sonipat. One is of clay while the other is of copper. The seal of Sonipat consists of full name of Harsha. Some seals are found in Bhitora village. They are made by silver and contain the name of Sri Shal Dutt. This is the primary sources, including inscription uh, about source of information of the Vardhana dynasty, historical literature, mainly Ban Bhatt composed Harsharit and Arya Manjusri Moolkalp, and main source of this dynasty was the composition of Harsha, Nagaran Ratnavali Priyadarshika. Uh, this is a Sanskrit text by Harshvardhan. Main song, Chinese Traveler, It Singh, another Chinese traveler, and in archaeological sources, ruins of Bansikhera inscription, Madhuban inscription, a whole inscription, and Nausari inscription. And two seals of Harsha have been found in Nalanda and Sonipat. Now the session is open for question answer round. Any question? Anyone? Now the question and answer round is closed. We can talk Emperor Harshvardhan. 606 to 647 AD. After the hmm, his elder brother Rajvardhan, Harshvardhan ascended the throne of Thaneswar with the consent of the councillors of the state. He proved himself as the greatest ruler of the Pushyabhuti dynasty. Of course, he has not been accepted as one of the great Indian rulers. Uh, Yet he occupies an important place in Indian history as a capable, just, and benevolent ruler. The first task before Harshvardhan was to avenge the murder of his brother and free his sister Rajshri from the captivity of the Devgupta. He swore vengeance on Sasank and marched towards Kannauj with a large army. In the way, he met an emissary of Bhaskar Varman, king of Kamrup, and entered into a alliance with that state, having received the news that Rajsri had been set free by Devgupta and that she had retired to the Vindhya forest in disgust. He first tried to trace her and succeeded in doing so the moment of she was going to throw herself into fire. He brought her back to Kannauj and then proceeded against Shashank. Extension of empire. Though the inscription at Nalanda and Banskera also provide us some information regarding Harsha reign. The most useful information uh, uh, coin is provided by Harsharit of Ban Bhatt and the description of the Chinese traveler Huan Song. Huan Song described that Harsha conquered the entire country within the first 6 years of his reign. However, the statement is not to be taken seriously. Harsha did not occupy even North India completely, nor his wards and convaded Bengal. The campaign was not Harsha first campaign Bengal. The campaign was not very successful because evidence proved that Shashank continued to rule over greater part of Bengal and Odisha till 637 AD. It was only after the death of Shashank that Harsha succeeded in his mission. The armies of the Harsha and death of the uh, Shashank and succeeded. East Bengal was occupied by Bhaskar Varman and West Bengal was occupied by Harsha. Dr. R.C. Majumdar has expressed the view that Harsha conquered Magad and Odisha as well after the death of Shashank. Huan Song described that Harsha ruled over Kannauj from the beginning of his reign, but it is not correct. He first carried on the administration of the kingdom of Kannauj and the name of his sister Rajsri, and it was 6 years after the beginning of his reign. that he united the kingdom of Kannauj with that of his own at the request of its ministries. He then also transferred his capital to Kannauj, which thereafter became the center of gravity of politics in northern India. Towards the west, the Malwas, the Gurjaras, and the rulers of Gujarat were the hereditary enemies of Harsha. Harsha first succeeded against Dhru Sen II or Dhru Bhat of Gujarat, Vallabhi. But other neighboring rulers, however, the rivalry between the two kingdoms ended with marriage of Dhru Sen with the daughter of Harsha. Dr. D.C. Sarkar has opened that the rulers of Gujarat accepted the sovereignty of Harsha, while Dr. R.C. Majumdar says that Gujarat remained an independent kingdom. The progress of Harsha towards the south was checked by the Chalukya king Pulkesin II, who was trying to be the sovereign of the Deccan. The battle between Harsha and Pulkesin II took place towards the north. Harsha had taken the aggressive step, but they failed to defeat Pulkesin and retreated. There occurred certain border disputes between Harsha and the rulers of Sindh, Kashmir, and Nepal, but these kingdoms remained independent of the influence of Harsha. Thus, the attempts of Harsha to create an extensive empire in India succeeded only partially. Song has made frequent reference to campaigns of Harsha, though he has not given their details. Bhat also gives us an impression that the entire northern India was included in his empire. Uh, yeah. Some modern historians have also accepted this view. Dr. K. M. Panikar describes that the empire of Harsha extended from Kamrup in the east to Kashmir in the west, and from the Himalayas in the north to the Vindhyas in the south. But R.C. Majumdar has strongly refuted this view. He has maintained that the empire of Harsha included only eastern Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, West Bengal, and Odisha. Though his power was recognized by his neighboring states in North India, as was the case with the rulers of Vallabhi and Kamrupa. However, mm, Kashmir, Western Punjab, Sindh, Rajputana, Nepal, and Kamrup were certainly independent states in his day. Yet Harsha has been regarded as a powerful emperor who certainly succeeded in providing unity to a large part of northern India after the fall of great Guptas. Now we come uh, administration. Harsha maintained the administrative setup of his empire on the model of previous great Hindu rulers. He himself was the head of the state, and all administrative, legislative, and judicial power were concentrated in his hands. He was also the first commander in chief of his army. Harsha assumed the titles of Maharaja Dhiraj and Param Bhattarak. He was a benevolent ruler and supervised the administration personally. He was not only capable ruler but was also very hardworking. Hien Song writes he was indefatigable and the day was too short for him. He regarded as the welfare of his subjects as his foremost duty, and except the rainy season constantly travelled over different parts of his empire to see things with his own eyes. he was in touch with his village subject to look after their welfare. The king was assisted by a council of ministers, which was uh, qu- quite effective. It advised the king both in matters of foreign policy and internal administration. Harsha was offered the throne of Thaneshwar and later on the throne of Kannauj by the 10 ministers of the respective state. Besides the ministers, there were many other important officials of the state, of whom a detailed list was given by Ban Bhatt in his Harsharit. Among the high imperial officers were a Mahasandhi Vigrahak and Mahabaladhikrit and a Mahapratihar. The empire was divided into bhuktis, uh, bhuktis or provinces, and then further into vishayas or districts. For the sake of administrative convenience, the village was the smallest unit of administration. The principal officer The principal officer of a province was Uparik, that of a district Vishayapati, and that of a village Gramik. Various other officers at the local administration bearing the titles Bhogpati and Ayuktak and Pratipalak Purushas are referred to in Harsha Charit. Thus, the administrative units of Harsha and their officers were similar to those of the great Gupta rulers. Harsha also utilized the service of his feudatories for the administration of his empire, who were called Mahasamant or Samant Maharaj. The high officer of the state were not paid in cash. They were assigned jagirs in return of their services. It lead to the beginning of Jagirdari system, uh, means feudalism during the reign of Harsha. The primary source of income of the state was land revenue called Bhag, which was 1/6 of the produce and was paid in kind. Hiranyabali, sales tax, toll tax, etc. Were other sources of income beside presentation by feudatory chiefs to the emperor. On the whole, the burden of taxation was not heavy on the subjects. The main item of expenditure were the personal expenditure of the king and his household and palace, the army, the salary of civil officers, public welfare works, charity, etc. Harsha organized religious assemblies uh, every fifth year of his reign at Prayag, present time Prayagraj. He held six such assemblies during his reign, whatever was left in the state treasury. After 5 years, Harsha used to give it all in charity at that time. It is said that they used to distribute in charity even his personal belongings. Harsha kept a strong standing army at the center. The cavalry, the infantry, and war elephants were the chief constituents of his army. According to Hansong, the army of Harsha constituted 6,000 war elephant, 20,000 strong cavalry, and 1 lakh strong infantry. The commanders of the army was called Baladhikrit or Mahabaladhikrit, and that of the cavalry Vrihadasvatar. Above them was the Mahasenapati of all the armed forces. Yet the supreme commander of the force was the king himself. As compared to the Guptas, the administration of justice was severe during the reign of Harsha. The usual punishment were imprisonment for life, banishment, and loss of limbs, ordeals by fire, water, etc. were sometimes resorted to for determining the innocence or guilt of an accused person. But in spite of the severity of laws and punishments, there was a peace and security within the empire as compared to the Gupta period. The Chinese traveler Huan Song himself was looted and deprived of his belongings several times while traveling through the country. Harsha pursues the policy of matrimonial alliance with the rulers of neighboring states in order to extend his power and of influence. He married his daughter to Dhruv Sen, second ruler of Gujarat or Vallabhi, and always maintained cordial relation with Bhaskar Varman, ruler of Kamrup. He had good relation with China as well and sent his emissary to that country in 641 AD, and in return received two emissaries from the country in 643 AD and 646 AD respectively. Uh, Harsha succeeded in providing a fairly good administration to his subjects. However, it remained inferior to that of the Gupta and the Mauryas. Harsha gave everything in charity, took many useful public welfare steps, and tried to maintain peace and order by uh, order by strict punishment to offenders. Uh, but he succeeded neither in providing public service to his subjects as compared to the Mauryas, nor in maintaining law and order is compared to the Guptas. Yet he was a kind and generous. Kind and his subjects were happy and prosperous. Uh, this is the administration system of Harshvardhan. Next lecture we can talk about culture and civilization of Harshvardhan period, and detail about culture, uh, uh, social condition, about society, economic condition, uh, religious condition, what religion, Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism uh, are still popular religions in India, and in Buddhism, Mahayana, basically Mahayanism, and we talk about was what the religion of Harshvardhana. um, uh, the religion Ban Bhatt described him as a Hindu Shaiv, while Huen Song stated that he was a Buddhist. It has seemed that he was a devotee of Shiva and worshipped the sun as a period of his life. He was attracted towards Buddhism. He is said to have erected many Buddhist stupas and monasteries. He summoned a convocation of the Buddhist monks annually for discussion of religious problems. He prohibited the slaughter of animals, and like Ashoka, made arrangement for the free supply of food and convert to Buddhism and continue to worship Shiva and Surya, even during the later period of his life. He practiced tolerance of early faith. Harsa used to have religious assembly at Prayag, modern time Prayagraj, in every fifth year. He had six such religious assemblies during his reign. Uh, these assemblies were proofs of his tolerant religious views. Uh, Buddha was worshipped on the first day of each assembly. Shiv was worshipped on the second day, and Surya was worshipped on the third day. Um, Harsha distributed money and generously to all people on each day, and On the fourth and final days, he used to give even his personal clothing and ornaments in charity and request to his sister Rajsri to give him something to cover his body. Th- This is called cultural point of Harshvardhan. Okay, thank you.